Hello and welcome to another edition of Fides Podcast. My name is Jerry Serino and I'm your host, and I'm here with talent on loan from Rush at the Bringing America Back to Life conference in Cleveland. Many of you may have been there, many of you may have heard about it, or maybe haven't heard about it. It's really the largest pro-life conference maybe in the country. If not the largest, it certainly is one of the largest, and they're always phenomenal speakers. And my guest today is one of those speakers that I found very, very inspirational, and someone that I felt was perfect for my show and to come and talk to. Her name is Pam Stenzel, and she was conceived in rape, and she talks about and with her great story talks about the importance of all life, regardless of how that life came about. So, Pam, thanks for joining me.
Hey, so good to be with you. Thanks, Jerry. It's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, we got a chance to I got a chance to hear your talk in person, and then afterwards I went and met you at your table. It was great. It's always good to see and meet someone in person. So let's start with your story, because the whole issue of rape or incest is always the story put forward, and certainly no one is discounting, and neither are you or am I discounting the horror of rape, of the
Sure.
rape victim. It's absolutely horrific. To me, next to murder, it's the greatest violation of a person's humanity. But we get that a lot. To say, with the exception, what about a rape?
Right.
What about rape? What about rape? So tell us your
Right.
story.
Well, and you have to start here that those of us who call ourselves pro-life, and most people, if I ask them, why are you pro-life? Why am I pro-life? Well,
Hmm.
I'm pro-life because abortion is the intentional killing of an innocent human person. So the foundational truth has to be there. So when you start saying accept, you have to always focus back that you're saying in this instance it is okay to intentionally kill an innocent human person. So my story, and really the reason that I got involved in the pro-life movement is primarily because of my story. Uh, Over 50 years ago, a young 15-year-old girl became pregnant, had a lot of difficult choices to make, maybe more so than some teen girls, because she was raped. And let me add that I found out later. I found out these things in I want to say segments, as it is, some as I was older and older, got
Yeah.
more detail, but she was in foster care. So I have a 15-year-old child in foster care who is raped and became pregnant. Lots of obviously difficulties around that and difficult choices, as we would say. But this 15-year-old was able to choose to give her child life and then place that child with an adoptive family. And that child was me. So my biological father is a rapist, don't know
Hmm.
my ethnicity, but I am still a human being and I still have value. And I don't believe that my life is worth less than yours simply because of the way I was conceived. And I don't believe that I'm the one who deserved the death penalty for the
Hmm.
crime of my father. So, and listen, I've listened to the rhetoric my whole life. Listen to people say, well, every child should be wanted and planned. Listen to people say that if these mothers have these children, they'll end up in foster care, and oh, it's just so terrible. I've been
Hmm.
called the spawn of Satan. I've been called all kinds of horrible names. But the reality is that is is that every child, no matter how they were conceived, is ordained by God. God had a plan for my life. And my birth mother not only gave me my life, but she gave me a family. She made a decision to place for adoption. I was adopted into this most amazing family. I'm the oldest of eight. Seven of us adopted. Every color of the rainbow in my family. We're multi-ethnic. My brother, just younger than me, is the only bio child. Uh, or the real one, people used to ask. And my parents had tried to get pregnant for 7 years and couldn't get pregnant. They adopted me, and 3 weeks later, mom found out she was pregnant, had my brother, and then never again. So adopted six more. So the reality is that the gift I was given, the selfless gift I was given by my birth mother, was not just my life, but then my amazing family, for me to have grown up that way. And that was all on her. And I think what people need to understand is that what and subsequently I've spent my life, and that's some, we can talk about this as well, but I've spent my entire adult life walking alongside women experiencing crisis pregnancies, many of them with rape or incest or assault, certainly. And what they needed, what my birth mom needed, what I came to realize is what she needed was not to have me violently ripped from her womb. What she needed was someone to love her, to give her hope, to come alongside her. Abortion doesn't do that. So the reality of abortion in the case of rape is this: it kills the innocent child. We all have agreed on that. You further traumatized this young woman. You haven't fixed anything. The trauma of rape didn't go away because you aborted her child. And this faulty concept that somehow if this mother has to look at her child every day, or she's forced to parent, there's no force to parent here. She has multitude of options beyond that one. But if she's just going to see the rapist, it's going to cause her trauma. None of that is true. Talk to any mother of rape who chose to raise their child, did not choose adoption or safe haven surrender. She chose to raise that child, would never tell you that child redeemed her. That child was part of the healing process. But you talk to a woman who had an abortion as a result of rape or trauma, she's going to tell you that the abortion itself caused her more trauma, did more damage, sent her further spiraling into a lot of pain. So I can promise you that I know that abortion killed the innocent child, and I know that it damaged this mother. So who have you helped? You've helped the rapist. You've helped the trafficker. You've helped the abuser. I have a friend who was born in incest. Her father is also her grandfather. This poor woman's mother was being raped by her father from the time she was 12 until 16. She had 4 abortions, 13, 14, 54 abortions. And the only thing that finally protected this woman from this constant incestual abuse in that family was for her to hide the pregnancy, run away. The pregnancy was what proved that the incest was going along, because that's the only form of proof you have. You have an abortion, you've gotten rid of the evidence. And the father was subsequently jailed, prosecuted and jailed. And finally, this victim got help. So, and we can show that to you in trafficking. These trafficking victims are dragged by their traffickers into these abortion clinics, into Planned Parenthood, and not one of them are being reported. So this trafficker who's already abusing this poor woman just continually keeps dragging her to the abortion clinic, damaging her, so that he can put her back out on the street and continue to abuse her. So I don't understand. I mean, Jerry, this is misplaced compassion. You're trying to have compassion for someone here, but it's certainly not the baby, and it's certainly not the victim, the mother. It is 100% compassion for the rapist, for the trafficker, for the abuser. That's who's getting helped by this.
Yeah. Well, and what's interesting is that no one on the left, or really, I mean, there may be certainly some that believe that rape, should give the death penalty. Right there, I don't, but I mean but certainly the left is against the death penalty, even for brutal murders and so on, and that's fine. But they want to give the death penalty to the innocent baby, right? So that's always what's put out there is I gave a talk at a college a few weeks ago, and of course this was brought up. This is the rape, and in the one case, I'm here in Ohio. There was the case right after Roe v. Wade, where a 10-year-old girl was raped, and she had to go to Indiana for an abortion, apparently. And the question was asked to me about that. I said, would you make that 10-year-old give birth? And, and I took your side. It's a life. I mean, it's horrible, but um, do you believe that those that are pro-abortion would accept banning abortion except in the cases of rape?
No, no. People
Right.
who are truly for abortion would never ever do that. You're not going to win them. These arguments are never. And back to that case for a minute. If a
Mm-hmm.
10-year-old is mature enough biologically physically to conceive and to become pregnant, there's a very good chance that she would be able to deliver that child. And I mean, everything has complications, but they're making it sound like it would kill her to deliver the child, and that's just
Right.
not true. And she could place, and yes, that's traumatic. But the reality is, until this was brought to light, this very case that you're talking about, no one had done anything about the perpetrator. No one had even questioned. No, he was not arrested. In fact, he was still living when all of this went down, when they finally realized it's not going to look too good for us to pretend that we just aborted this 10-year-old's child and sent her right back to the rapist. But that's exactly what they did. It's exactly what they did. And it wasn't until this media attention came on this case that they came forward and said he was an illegal and all of those issues. So the reality, again, the focus is never on the perpetrator, and the focus is never on keeping the child safe, which has to happen. But needless to say, they don't want any restrictions. They could care less about this rape exception. They throw out this, this because we've been doing it since the beginning of time. But the reality is that it's the people who call themselves pro-life, and I'm in the state of Florida, and I'm going to tell you right now that we've got a supermajority Republicans here. We almost all of them have given lip service to being pro-life, and not only did they just through the Senate pass a bill with all of these exceptions. When I went to testify on Tuesday, it said except in the case of rape or incest, and they have the life of the mother of those ones. But I testified against that. And it was a Republican who yesterday amended it and included human trafficking. So now it's not just rape and incest, but now it's included. Now it's the trafficker. So it wasn't the Democrats, it was the Republicans. And I think, Jerry, that because this excuse has been used since 1973, since Roe v. Wade, when Jane Doe, who was Norma McCorvey, who or Jane Roe, the Roe in Roe versus Wade, claimed she was gang raped because they knew in 1973 to just say that she needed access to an abortion would never fly with the public. So they had to tell this crazy story about gang rape. Then we come to subsequently find out that was a complete lie. And by the way, Norma McCorvey never had an abortion. The Roe in Roe versus Wade is a living 40-something-year-old today, or maybe 50 now. So the reality is we pro-lifers have for 4 decades now made that exception, have never stood for life fully. We've said, I don't want an abortion unless, except. And so now it's a given. It's almost like a knee-jerk reaction. We're going to put a pro-life law on there. We got to put the exceptions out there because otherwise it will never pass. And it's like we have conditioned our own selves to not support. And for those that had said to me for decades, Jerry, they would say to me, oh, Pam, rape is only a small percentage, and we know that your life has value. But you know what? Let us just do this little bit, and then we'll come back. We'll come back and fix it and protect you later. Well, they've been telling me that for 40 years, and they've never done it.
Yeah, Republicans are our worst enemy in reality. We're facing that in Ohio, and we have a large majority, but in the House, there's a lot of Republicans standing in the way of a lot of the things that we're trying to that are being tried to do by the state legislature. Even though the Senate is overwhelmingly Republican, there's Republican majority in the House as well. It's really sad when you get these types of weak Republicans that are afraid. And what would happen too is if we had exceptions, is that all of a sudden everyone would just claim I was raped.
It's exactly what happens. And they can try to put a thing where you've got to have a police report. Then they come back and they whine about that. No, because women don't report rape.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, all of those arguments. And at the end of the day, it's kind of like the parental notification and then the judicial bypass. Well, the abortion clinic is really good at you need a judicial bypass, quick, here we go, sign this paper, boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
They've got the judge in their pocket, and it's done with. So the reality is this: only in the states, since Roe v. Wade, only in the states that have completely outlawed abortion without exception, to the point where the abortion clinics themselves have had to close down, right? That they can no longer make a living because they're not doing any abortions prior to heartbeat for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
Then those are the only places where we've seen the clinic shut down and really abortions numbers drop dramatically. Any state like Florida that did something less than that or added exceptions. Now, we had a 15-week ban, which was worthless, absolutely worthless. And let me tell you, the pro-life, I'm going to put it in quotes again, Jerry, the pro-life community, oh, look we did this so amazing 15-week ban. And there weren't exceptions on the 15-week ban, mind you, but it's 15 weeks, right? So these are unenforceable laws. So what happened after Roe v. Wade in Florida is last year we had the highest abortion rate we've had in 5 years. With the 15-week ban, we had more abortions. 82,000 abortions happened in 2022 in the state of Florida. And we had a 300% increase in out-of-state abortions, travel abortions, women coming from other states where the laws were more restrictive to Florida to have abortions. So mark my words, I'm going to be a prophet here. If this law passed in Florida with all of these exceptions, none of the abortion clinics in my state are going to close down. They're going to stay open. You know why? Because they can get around every one of these exceptions with paperwork. These are unenforceable restrictions. And if they don't shut down, if they did shut down, that would say, hey, the exception, it worked. A 6-week ban with all of these exceptions worked, and we lowered the abortion rate. But if they don't shut down, don't you tell me that these Planned Parenthoods and these private abortion clinics can stay in business only doing abortions in those exceptions. It's not physically possible.
Right.
It couldn't happen. So when it does, that tells every one of you, or should tell every one of you, that your regulation, while well-intended, when you make it unenforceable, they're going to continue to break the law.
Yep. And what we also know is that the abortion clinics are not regulated, as you kind of said. They're, from the standpoint of safety, and like any other doctor's office, has to meet certain standards, and it's done so for the protection of any of the patients. So if you're you do colon screenings or whatever the procedure, you have to have various safety standards. You're audited, all sorts of things. Absolutely is the case that there would be tremendous fraud. How easy would it be to say, oh, this woman is 14 and a half weeks, we're good, right? It's an easy thing to do, and no one
very easy
even tries to stop them. We know that
it's unenforceable. And Jerry, when you say this to people, like, hey, the abortion clinic could just put on their paper and on their ultrasound, tweak it and say baby's 15 weeks when baby's really 19 weeks, because they're going to lie, cheat, get around the system. And then they're like, oh no, they wouldn't do that, they're doctors. People, have you lost your minds? They kill innocent children for money. Lying or cheating on a piece of paper is not a giant moral stretch here.
Right. Yeah. That's the least of their problems.
Exactly right.
If they're actually doing, doing these abortions. That's really sick. Yeah, it's an excellent point. And again, this is, why this is so important, is because this is always what the left goes to when you're having debates and discussions about this. Is what about, someone who was raped, and what about that, and stuff like that. And it used to be that exceptions were a pretty normal part of things, and it has really gone away, which is important for us to do in order to be consistent in that this is a life. I have a slide in my a presentation that I do for people is it shows an ultrasound image, and I ask, there's two of them, which one is a baby conceived in rape, right? You don't know, and it doesn't matter. It's still a life. Pam, your life mattered, and it's fantastic that you're here, and you have life. Have just I'm sure people would. Two things I want to ask is how can people connect with you, to follow you, and I know you were an excellent speaker. So
Thanks,
if
Roy.
anyone is looking for a great speaker, Pam would be great. So how can people connect?
So you can find me at pamstenzel.net. So it's kind of a weird dot, not com or whatever, but .net. So
Hmm.
pamstenzel.net. You can also go to livingexceptions.com. So you could just kind of think I'm the living exception, right,
Yeah.
to that. So livingexceptions.com. We're still building that website, so be patient with us on that. It's a brand new project that we're doing,
Hmm.
but we're wanting to let not just me, but other women, other mothers of rape, other people who were rape conceived, be able to share their stories, so that there will be a
Yeah.
place to go where you can listen to the testimonies of others, but you can reach out to me there. And so that's really the best way to kind of reach out to me. Pamstenzel.net is if you want to come have me speak, is probably the best place to go, or you can reach me there. And then I have Twitter. I think I'm Pamela or Pam Stens 819. I'm not sure exactly which one it is. You can find me
Yep.
on Twitter, and if you put Pam Stenzel in anywhere, you'll usually
You'll
come
find,
up with
yeah.
something, and you'll see all my hate. The
Yeah.
all my people who don't like me very much. There's
Yeah.
many of them.
You're on. Pam is on Instagram as well. That's
Yeah.
where I connected with her, and just search Pam Stenzel, Stenzel, and then that'll help you find her. So yeah, definitely if you're looking for a really great speaker, because this topic is one that the left always comes with, and I think having your story and your talk is really helpful to people to defend that. So just real curious, have you ever found or engaged with your birth mom?
Yeah, I opened all my records in Michigan at the time I was born. All adoption records were closed, and they were closed on both ends. And so I opened up all my records when I turned 8. Well, I was actually 19. Um, and just gave her permission to find me, and then I left it there. I guess I didn't, knowing the circumstances when I found out that she had been raped and was in foster care. I didn't want to be that person that just came up on her doorstep and said, "Hello, here I am." If that wasn't helpful to her, but I wanted her to have the opportunity to know me.
Mhm.
And so at this point, she had not done that, but I've always said that I've been praying for since I was a little girl, since I was 4 years old. Just prayed for the mommy whose tummy I was in. That's how I
Mhm.
knew her when I was little, and really continually pray that someday I will get a chance to see her in heaven and be able to be in this really perfect place without pain to kind of
Mhm.
have those discussions. And someone asked me this, Jerry, one time, and it kind of took me at first. It took me like, oh, they said, you say that you pray for your biological mother. Have you prayed for your biological father? And there was something just kind of visceral in me in the beginning to say, he caused so much pain. And as much as I would like to advocate for the death penalty for child abusers and rapists and people like that, um, as long as he had breath, there's opportunity for him to repent.
Mhm.
And so, I I stopped that day and I said, you know what? I need to pray for that there was repentance. And then we leave justice in the hands of a holy God. I don't met out justice very well as a human
Mhm.
being, but God is justice. And we just have to believe that our God will do the just thing. And so we know that he takes this horrible crime very seriously. He said it would be better if you had a millstone hung about your neck and you'd be drowned in the sea than if you would hurt one of my little ones. So we know that God is just, and that those crimes don't go unpunished. But
Mhm.
I do pray that he found
Yeah.
a repentance.
Yeah, no, that's a perfect way to put it, and that's what's necessary to help you as well to sort of deal with it. So, Pam Stenzel, really great conversation. Again, even better if you have more time to hear her entire talk. So please reach out to her if you're looking for a great pro-life speaker on the issue of a baby conceived in rape, and the quote unquote exceptions. So really, really appreciate it. Pam Stenzel, thanks so much for coming on.
Jerry, thanks for giving me the time. I appreciate it so much.
Oh, my pleasure. And thank all of you for listening to this episode of Fide's Podcast. Please check out all my shows on all the different podcast apps, on YouTube, on Rumble, and on Wednesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on rightamericamedia.com. So thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.